Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time and have a huge collection of videos for you to binge watch, and I upload 2 new videos per week with a live stream each week as well. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button down below, or backing me on Subscribestar or Patreon, where you get access to all of the scripts I write for these vids if you prefer to read what I'm saying. Also have a Discord server with an active community, and of course, if you think I've earned it, subscribe to the channel. We all know the chromatic dragons are the ones that can't shapeshift naturally into humanoid form to walk among the very creatures they feed on and would rule as tyrannical gods, right? Well, there are exceptions to that, quite a few of them, so I think it's best we start with one of the very worst, and a special viewer request. Dragons exist across all the environments of the prime material plane. The Echo realms of the Feywild, the Shadowfell, and the Realm of Dreams. You may not have heard of that one yet, but it's fully a thing, and we will be visiting there soon in a future video. The Inner Elemental and Border Elemental planes, the transitive planes of the Astral Sea and Ghostly Ethereal plane, and many outer planes of the Afterlife. Those outer planes have many qualities that differ from the worlds of the prime material plane, one of which is they're not worlds, of course, they are realms, where things like distance and the acceptance of one alignment or another is determined by belief, faith, a multiversal collective narrative. They are realms of story just as much as the Feywild, realms of imagination just as much as the realm of dreams, and in the case of the so-called lower planes, they are places of nightmare that many good aligned folk see as nothing more than domains where souls go to be eternally punished for their worldly transgressions against right-minded living morals and ethics. I can't imagine that this is a place where people actually want to go. So what happens when you get a powerful draconic life form, normally chaotic evil, and top of the food chain, such as a red dragon, and hatch it within the unique and very lawful evil realms of the 9 hells of Baator? First of all, the plane is dominant in lawful evil. Beings that exist there are inexorably turned toward that way of thinking and feeling every moment of every hour that they're there. Every action that is good or chaotic is so much harder, the consequences so much worse, that it just becomes pointlessly futile and very dangerous to keep trying to resist the lawful evil. Creatures that are born and spend their living existence within the 9 hells, despite it being typical for their species to be certain other alignment, will always, almost always grow to adulthood with an alignment that matches that of the hells, and further, they have existed their whole lives in the vicious, calculated and selfish societies of the very home of lawful evil. So, in the case of the Red Dragon, you have a draconic creature that has the mind of Batizu, a devil. There is more though. The 9 hells is a foreign environment by its elemental nature as well, and dragons are creatures with a fundamental, deep connection with the flow of elemental and magical energy within any plane that they inhabit. So what you end up with, given all the twists and unique traits influencing and shaping the Red Dragon over several centuries, is the Hellfire Wyrm. So sit back, grab a beverage, we're about to get deeply nerdy as we delve into the ecology and psychology of these apex threats. Within the 9 hells, there are boatloads of terrible monsters, not least of which is the devils themselves, but there are living creatures that exist within this realm of the afterlife, many of which have been deliberately brought to the blasted plains of Avernus, where they are set loose on the highly disciplined legions of devils in one of their frequent and intense training exercises. This is why there is such a diverse array of bones and refuse left all over the place among the ruins and broken landscapes. Avernus has most of the qualities of a spherical planet, though it may just have a deceptive curvature that goes on and on forever, so one can never circumnavigate the whole realm. I don't know if anyone has ever actually attempted that, or when it is much easier and safer to just teleport from one blighted murder zone to the next. Still, there are plenty of roaring convoys of hell engines that power their way across the salt flats and through dead forest, down twisted ravines and over windswept deserts, skirting around the worst parts of rumbling and fuming volcanic zones. Hellfire Wyrms are kind of lost among the menagerie of horrific encounters one can run into out in the wastelands of Avernus, which is saying something. They pick their lairs well, learn to use their home terrain to their best advantage, and if they decide that an interloper is better off dead, there is very little chance those interlopers are going to survive. They're prepared well. When seen in their natural form, Hellfire Wyrms are huge dragons that look like a slightly longer-bodied, nightmarishly enhanced version of a red dragon that has been made from fire, lava and brimstone. Large bone spikes rise out of their head and shoulders while smoke continually drifts out from between their scales, which seem to float like molten lava across a massive, lean and very muscular body. They have wings that are slightly longer and larger than a red dragon, but have the same basic shape, and their black-rimmed eyes burn with a bright yellow heat. Anyone who is near them can smell a reeking scent of brimstone, ignited fireworks and gunpowder. Mostly though, you won't find most of the Hellfire Wyrms in the Nine Hells once they've survived into adulthood, as their services are, if you'll pardon the pun, in very hot demand on the Prime Material plane as agents of the Nine Hells of Baatorian, thanks to their ability to live right amongst the mortal humanoid races. Monster Manual 2 for 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons states the following. They are masterful power brokers, manipulating people and events in subtle ways. Hellfire Wyrms can steer rulers to fight in unjust wars, or support unholy alliances, or even commit despotic acts against their own people. Hellfire Wyrms entrench themselves in regional politics by using their knowledge, wealth, and persuasive abilities to force through their foul agendas. The typical worm does not limit its actions to any one kingdom, and it often has many different identities for each realm it visits. It takes great pains to hide its draconic form, usually assuming the shape of a charismatic tiefling, when dealing with humanoids and assassinating anyone who learns of its true identity. Hellfire Wyrms retreat to secret lairs when not actively scheming. To aid their infernal diplomatic manipulations, the Wyrms can speak their innate draconic language as well as the infernal tongue of Baatorian and the other lower planes, plus the common tongue of the mortal humanoids, as well as any languages they pick up to deal directly with any nearby humanoid races who may prefer not to speak common all the time. They have the innate power to shapeshift, though there are limitations. They can spend an action at will to change from a huge dragon to a medium-sized humanoid or back again. However, the humanoid form is limited to either that of a tiefling or a devil, such as a horned devil. They are draconic beings in either form and have the usual sort of impressive powers that come with that. Their frightful presence is the same as an adult red dragon, except it's twice the usual range, so up to 240 feet, and they can unleash an infernal aura of heat that will scorch creatures within 5 feet of their Hellfire Wyrm, inflicting 5d4 points of fire damage. This can be instantly and constantly suppressed by the Wyrm as they wish. They are creatures of fire, totally immune to all fire effects and damage, but as a consequence they have a vulnerability to cold, taking double damage from it. Yet, if they are allowed a saving throw to take half damage and they make that save, they still only take half normal damage, not half double damage, which is something to keep in mind. Hellfire Wyrms are also trained in the use of their natural magical power. They are a 20th level spellcaster. The Wyrm's spellcasting ability is Charisma. Spell save DC is 19 plus 11 to hit with spell attacks. The Wyrm has an array of spells. Something typically would be like Bestow Curse, Charm Person, Command, any sort of fire spells, Dispel Magic, Hold Person, Invisibility, Sending, Teleport, True Seeing, Contact Other Plane of course, Cloud Kill, and other profane spells of dark sorcery. They also have the ability to gate in devils, just like a Bartizu, which is pretty extraordinary. This power is gifted to them by infernal powers that they are in service to, so it can be taken away from them and may have limitations or added benefits. You can tweak it when you determine what power that they're working for. Typically, the Hellfire Wyrm has a 30% chance per long rest to summon either a bearded, horned, or ice devil. A summoned devil appears in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of its summoner, acts as an ally of its summoner, and can't summon other devils. It remains for 1 minute or until its summoner dies or until its summoner dismisses it as an action. There's nothing stopping a summoned devil from delivering powerful magic items to the Wyrm, such as healing potions, spell scrolls, arcane explosives, and so on. They just pop in with the plume of brimstone smoke, say, here you go, and pop back to hell again. The Horned Devil could be flying 60 feet up above the scene when summoned, and there is this great move the dragon can perform. I'll talk about that later. The Hellfire Wyrm is ferociously strong, actually a couple of points stronger than an adult red dragon. They don't retain this strength in their humanoid form, fortunately, but an adult Hellfire Wyrm can grab and fling a humanoid like it was a toy. The victim will sail 100 feet through the air, taking 10d6 points of bludgeoning damage when they land. Even more, if the Hellfire Wyrm was flying higher up when they threw them, they'll take extra falling damage as well. Remember what I said? They could summon a Horn Devil in midair? Well, they can throw a victim so they fly past the summoned devil, who just gets them to make an attack before they land. This is even better if the Horn Devil is swinging a great big metal great club. Swing! Bada 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 steer, right? The Hellfire Wyrm also has legendary resistance and typical physical attacks of the adult red dragon, so you don't have to change a lot. They have better visual senses, but not by much, and the same legendary actions with the addition of being able to escape certain situations by switching from humanoid to draconic form or vice versa as a legendary move during combat. So keep using that and highlight the fact that this is so weird for a chromatic dragon to do. Their breath weapon is, as you would expect, a cone of hellfire. However, it trades a slight reduction in range for a much greater amount of destruction. The cone of hellfire is 50 feet long rather than the usual 60 and will recharge on a roll of 6 at the start of the dragon's next turn on a roll of d6, not a 5 or 6 as is typical. Each creature in that cone must make a DC 21 dexterity saving throw, taking 14 d10 fire damage on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful one. So it's ferocious. This is amazingly intense heat that will melt stone and metal in its path if it's concentrated on it. Creatures killed by it will leave nothing behind, no remains other than a drifting cloud of ash. In combat, the Hellfire Wyrm is said to be fearless and almost unstoppable, with a keen mind for tactics above and beyond what we'd normally see in any red dragons. They have observed devils fighting in countless battles and skirmishes, have seen how they take down single large targets like themselves, and they use techniques to thwart the advantage of groups of medium-sized humanoids. Not only that, they use their magic with great precision to turn their enemies into temporary allies, spread confusion, create barriers of flame, bring down buildings on top of the whole scene of battle, which they can withstand but most humanoids cannot, and of course, breathe beneath them with their breath weapon and turn the ground into a raging inferno with patches of shallow lava. If they have their cover blown, as it were, they just take to the air in dragon form, hurling spells and flame, scorching minds and bodies with a fair amount of enjoyment. A lawful evil being with intelligence slightly higher than a red dragon, pushing 17 to 18 points. They are shrewd, highly manipulative, cunning and ruthless, but as is typical of the red dragons they are descended from, they are highly greedy, extremely vain, and have nothing but contempt for mortal beings of the material plane. They don't have much love for the devils, but they do respect the Lords of the Nine Hells' ability to acquire truly stunning amounts of wealth and power. Hellfire Wyrms may be slightly less impulsive and more strategic than red dragons, but when they do fly into a rage they leave nothing behind but an immolated ruin. The red dragons are some of the most arrogant creatures in existence. The Hellfire Wyrms are tempered slightly by the many obligations and deals they usually have going on with the powers of hell in exchange for their own advancement, but they still consider themselves better than any ordinary red dragon, and admittedly, they're quite right. They see themselves as masters of both the living and dead realms, closer to Tiamat than others of their kind, save her consorts, and it's true, a lot of them live quite close by to Tiamat's lair. All other dragons should recognise this, they think, and pay them tribute. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Subscribestar or Patreon links for the full scripts for these vids, buy some Teespring merchandise, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.